c'est lui qui faisait que, avec tout ce qui nous séparait, on était quand même une famille.
Scaled-down cinema at a mini-festival in Cannes, French director Maiwenn digs deep into family roots, and Calamity Jane strikes again. That's all coming up in today's cinema show. But first, cinema has returned to the Riviera as Cannes is hosting a 3-day event after the annual film festival was cancelled in May. Organisers were determined to go ahead with a modified version of the festival, despite COVID-related constraints, with just a fraction of the usual crowds and a reduced programme of screenings. France 24's reporters are in Cannes to cover this mini-festival. Claire Pacalin has been making the most of a quieter, socially distanced red carpet there. Here's more from her.
C'est vraiment l'identité cannoise, finalement, le côté raffiné du festival, c'est quelque chose qui nous tient à cœur.
Ça fait longtemps que je viens. Je suis contente et en même temps je suis très triste parce que c'est pas le festival comme il est d'habitude. Elle existe cette édition, donc c'est déjà beaucoup.
Ça ramène un peu les strass et les paillettes à Cannes.
This year, the French film Un Triomphe, the big hit is its English title, opened the festival. Based on real events in Sweden in the 1980s, it tells the story of a struggling actor who ends up teaching prisoners to act in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot.
Mais vous avez jamais travaillé avec des détenus?
Si, un petit peu. Mais c'était des jeunes en difficulté qui avaient fait des conneries.
Ah d'accord. C'est pas pareil. Hein.
T'as vu que je t'ai dit je pouvais. Alors là, je m'appelle Étienne, je suis comédien.
On va faire des sketchs, nous, monsieur.
Bah ouais, nous, on va faire du stand-up.
Les sketchs, c'est pas trop mon truc. Moi, je fais du théâtre.
Mais c'est bizarre, on vous a jamais vu. T'es con, quoi. Il serait une star, il serait pas avec nous. Tu réfléchis un peu.
The Cannes Film Festival usually attracts over 200,000 visitors to the town.
Ce palais des festivals et des congrès, qui est le premier de France en chiffre d'affaires en Paris, a une baisse de son activité de plus de 90%. Ce sont des milliers d'emplois qui en dépendent, des milliers de familles qui sont dans une détresse humaine.
On a été le premier grand événement à devoir se résoudre à annuler l'édition physique et donc d'être auprès des Cannois, du maire de cette ville. C'est une façon pour nous de se dire, quoi qu'il soit arrivé cette année, on est quand même venu à Cannes.
This year's Cinema Festival is largely symbolic, a way of showing support to the cinema industry and the artists, technicians, producers, directors and cinema owners who work within it.
Next to the new releases of the week, and we're hoping that cinemas will be able to stay open long enough here in France to check them out. Well, for that, I'm joined by Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa. Now, we're starting with a film starring and directed by Maiwenn, who's an artist here in France, sufficiently well known to go by her first name. She's also been in the papers this week for an interview where she hit out at certain feminists and defended Roman Polanski's Best Director prize at this year's César Awards, which was seen as controversial on the night. But coming back to her career, Maiwenn's film DNA is out this week. Tell us more, Lisa.
Well, Maiwenn co-wrote this with Agnès Varda's son, Mathieu Demy, and she stars as Neige, a divorced mother of 3 who becomes obsessed with getting to the bottom of her tangled roots when her beloved grandfather, a former Algerian freedom fighter, dies. Now, Granddad was the glue holding together 3 generations of ethnically varied French individuals, and boy, are they a screwed-up clan. Since it's tied up in the problematic legacy of France's relationship to Algeria, DNA would ideally be a welcome conversation starter in this era of identity politics. But while the film has a smattering of sometimes funny, sometimes touching details, this tentacular and mostly annoying bunch of people tried my patience as a viewer. To put it diplomatically, film editor Laure Gardette deserves major credit for whittling down 150 hours of rushes shot in chronological order to 90 minutes, because I tend to believe that an hour and a half is the upper limit of how long most viewers might wish to spend with these emotionally damaged characters and Neige's urgent quest.
Okay, well, judge for yourself. Let's take a look at the grieving clan in DNA.
Ma mère, elle est 50% algérienne, donc moi, la moitié de 50, c'est 25. Tu voudrais bien me donner ta salive pour un test ADN complet?
Ah.
Tu trouves que c'est normal qu'à l'âge que j'ai toujours peur de toi? J'ai envie d'avoir un esprit reposé.
résigne. Je veux pas que t'aies peur.
Mais c'est raté, j'ai peur de toi.
Well, there do seem to be some characters there with very different physical characteristics.
Well, yeah, when keeping the layers of relatives straight in a good Russian novel can be rewarding, what's on screen here is a frequently frustrating guessing game of who begat who. Nej identifies with her grandfather, but we're not given enough to truly care about him or the role he apparently played in her life. Nej telling her mother, Fanny Ardant, in an inspired bit of casting, that she loves her but can't stand her, has a ballsy quality. And Louis Garrel as Nej's ex-companion, a master of genuinely funny bad puns, is so lively that each appearance only serves to remind us how cranky and unreasonable almost everybody else is. Now, when Nej decides to send away for a DNA analysis kit an hour in, she expects to learn that she's at least 25% Algerian. The results? Throw her for a loop. I have yet to like any of Maiwenn's films as a director. This is the fifth, but she has a local and international following, and this film has been sold to quite a few other countries.
Okay. Well, next we're moving to an award-winning Spanish film which is based on historical circumstances. Dozens of Spaniards, so-called moles, lived in hiding for decades in their own homes, fearful of reprisals from their Franco-aligned neighbours after fighting on the Republican side of the Spanish Civil War. This film's called The Endless Trench. Tell us more.
Well, this film gets off to an absolutely breathless start. It's 1936 in Andalusia, and an armed raid is underway. Militiamen are knocking on doors and barging in and arresting people. Our main protagonist, Higinio, recently married, has been denounced by a neighbor. He ends up in the back of a truck with other prisoners, manages to escape, ends up hiding in a well with two fellow freedom fighters. I could go on. The first 20 minutes take place almost entirely outdoors, and the next 2 hours take place almost entirely indoors, because that is where Higinio is stuck. If he shows his face in town, he'll be arrested or worse. Without knowing what he's embarking upon, he enters self-imposed confinement, hiding at first under the floorboards and later in a wardrobe. His wife, Rosa, a seamstress, becomes the breadwinner, and she very much wants to have a child, which is kind of nutty under the circumstances. This is a love story, first and foremost, but it's tense, sometimes violent, sometimes funny, and a crash course in asking yourself, what would I do if I was on the wrong side of history, according to my neighbors and Franco, and could never leave my house?
Wow, certainly sounds very dramatic. So let's take a look at The Endless Trench.
Buenos días. ¿Le puedo ayudar en algo?
Calladita. Mira también en el patio.
Están buscando a mi marido se fue anoche, ¿eh? Aquí no hay nadie.
Aquí no hay nadie.
¿Lo ves? Si se lo estaba diciendo.
Aquí, por lo siguiente de la lista, vamos.
Now, judging from the point of view there, it does seem to have a suffocating atmosphere.
Oh, the circumstances are so peculiar. There are close calls. If you don't have much room to move, well, how do you keep from going mad? What does this do to your sense of masculinity if you have to wear women's sweaters because a man's sweater on the laundry line would be a dead giveaway? How can you be a husband to your wife and a father to your son if your life consists of counting on other people to bring you food and hoping the wrong people don't begin to suspect that you might be hiding in there somewhere after all these years? When you think about how much the world changed between 1936 and 1969, when an amnesty was declared in Spain for anybody who the powers that be say behaved badly during the war, the mind boggles, at least mine did. This film made me feel as if I'd experienced a lockdown of epic proportions. The acting couldn't be better. The makeup is impressive. This is a very fine contribution to the catalog of films that remind us that love is glorious and war is stupid.
A very important subcategory for us to keep our eye on there. Now, finally, French animator Rémi Chaillet tackles the adventurous life of the young Calamity Jane in Calamity, A Childhood of Martha Jane Cannery.
Well, you know, musicians and demagogues struggle to come up with memorable stage names like DJ Drink Bleach and DJ Spray Tan. But how can you top Calamity Jane? You hear it once and you never forget it. Calamity Jane has been an adult character played by actors in at least half a dozen films, but this gem imagines the early years of this irresistibly colorful feminist icon. The animation is thrillingly evocative of the rigors of the still Wild West. Nowadays, misplacing one's cell phone is considered an ordeal, but I think that pales compared to the danger of being eaten by wolves or careening over a cliff. Jane, at age 10, when we meet her, is smart and honest and hardworking and just about fearless. The animator is a man, but his subject is a young girl en route to claiming her place as a distinctive woman. The French language voice work took some getting used to for me, but after about 15 minutes, I got caught up in the story of a plucky young girl who poses as a boy in order to make her way in the world. Wrongly accused of theft, she's been banished from the wagon train carrying her family to a new life, and she has adventures galore on her mission to prove her innocence.
Calamity Jane, truly a heroine for the ages. Thank you very much, Lisa, for that roundup. We'll leave you with a taste of Calamity Jane's hijinks. Do remember you can get more movie news on our website, and you can keep up with us on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Tu fais-moi le malin maintenant, tête de boule.
Rarement vu une fille aussi mal élevée. C'est pas une fille. La petite dame aurait peut-être du travail pour 2 orphelins.
Moi, je peux passer.
Non, c'est trop dangereux.
Vous employez des filles maintenant?
Ouais, et celle-ci est très efficace. Aussi efficace que mal élevée.
Special events.
It's one of those events you cannot ignore. Every 4 years, all eyes are on the White House. Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Who will America pick as its next president? Will the Republican incumbent stay in office, or will his Democratic rival unseat him? Throughout the campaign, our correspondents and guests will discuss the issues at the heart of the election.
Follow election results in our special edition beginning on the 3rd of November on France 24.